I'm just reminded, Your Excellency, of what young Africans like to say. It's a slogan, Africa, your time is now. They also say, we are the ones we have been waiting for. We, our ancestors' wildest dreams, living the dreams of our forefathers, foremothers, our forebearers. Because we are in the moment, let us make it count. The time has come. And so with those opening remarks, let me acknowledge all of you, distinguished guests. In particular, let me acknowledge you, Madam Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations. Let me acknowledge you, the outgoing session chair, Minister from Congo. Let me acknowledge you, Dr. Vera Songwe. And yes, our host, President Paul Kagame.
I am pleased to join you today to open the 8th session of the Africa Regional Forum on Sustainable Development. First, allow me to welcome you to Rwanda. We are happy to host you. I also wish to thank the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa under the leadership of Dr. Vera Songwe for the good work being done to advance our continent's development. Over the years, Africa has made significant progress to tackle socio-economic challenges. However, the COVID pandemic has slowed development gains, and in some cases, reversed that progress that had been made.
Excellencies, the fate of the Sustainable Development Goals will be decided in Africa. To succeed, Africa must have the financial resources to invest now in a better tomorrow. We are far from where we need to be. Debt to GDP ratios have risen to almost 70%. Today, 17 African countries are at risk of debt distress, and 4 are already in debt distress. The Secretary General has appealed for a serious reform of the international financial architecture, which shamelessly favors rich and punishes the poor. The Economic Commission for Africa's Liquidity and Sustainability Facility is an important partnership with the private sector to increase liquidity for sustainable investments in Africa. But we also need to ensure that finance is invested in the real economy. Special drawing rights should be rechanneled to countries most in need and invested in universal social protection, as well as the green, digital, and healthcare economies.
Les perturbations causées par cette pandémie ont considérablement élargi les écarts, déjà importants en matière d'accès à une éducation et à une formation de qualité. Cette crise a gravement accentué les inégalités entre les sexes et elle retarde encore la transition urgente vers des économies plus vertes et plus inclusives, au point de remettre en cause l'application du programme 2030 et de l'agenda 2063. Pourtant, pour l'Afrique, la voie vers une prospérité partagée et durable doit passer par une réponse efficace aux chocs posés par le changement climatique, la dégradation des sols et la perte de forêts et de biodiversité, ainsi que et par l'exploitation durable de ces ressources aquatiques, marines et minérales.
We have been looking a lot at the wars on the continent or on the wars outside the continent. But something has been happening very quietly that we have not seen. I'm sure many of you have not even noticed. In the last 3 days, huge, massive change in the technology industry. Microsoft acquired an industry called Activision. It's a $200 billion gaming industry. $200 billion. This is where our youth see the future. And also when you say that we are the ones we've been waiting for, we are the ones we've been waiting for with $200 billion. The question, Your Excellency, is still today the policies on our continent do not allow our youth to develop their applications, grow them on the continent, use them on the continent, monetize them on the continent. Every day we have some youth on the continent selling an idea to Google, to Microsoft, or to Cisco. If we continue to do that, what Microsoft has been able to do will never happen on the continent. Waking up one morning and being the largest gaming industry or the largest owner of a gaming industry in the world at $200 billion. With the population Europe has, Africa is going to be the consumer of those games that are being produced by Microsoft. But there are African kids in all of our capitals, in all of our villages, that certainly can do that. The question is, under the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, Your Excellency, can we create a global mutualized setting for African youth? You are in Kigali leading the way with the Innovation Center and the Innovation port that you're building, or free zone. Can we bring together all the intellectual property? Yes, we're all talking about intellectual property for the COVID-19 vaccine. And I think at the very least, it has done us good because we understand the importance of intellectual property. But intellectual property for our youth is even more important in the digital and technological space.
We can build an Africa that is greener and more resilient with the Sustainable Development Goals and Agenda 2063 as our blueprint. The truth is that we were off track in achieving these targets even before the pandemic in some cases. Instead of being a setback, pandemic response and recovery can be used as a springboard to speed up progress and innovate smarter ways to invest in human capital development. Allow me to mention 3 specific actions for your consideration. First, Africa must build mutually beneficial partnerships to strengthen its capacity to manufacture vaccines and pharmaceuticals. The Economic Commission for Africa has been working on this for some time in the context of the African Continental Free Trade Area. Africa CDC and AUDA NEPAD have jointly led the way on the need for the African Medicines Agency, which has now come into force. And last year, African CDC brought together key stakeholders in the Partnership for African Vaccines Manufacturing. This initiative laid the groundwork for BioNTech's commitment to produce mRNA vaccines end-to-end in Ghana, Senegal, and Rwanda, starting later this year. Second, Africa should prioritize domestic resource mobilization to finance its development, particularly for national health systems. Progress has already been made for domestic health financing on our continent, and we should build on this momentum. Lastly, to support Africa's green growth, the African Continental Free Trade Area should be used to promote the adoption of sustainable technologies and infrastructure. To achieve the SDGs and Agenda 2063, the goals need to be integrated in our national planning frameworks, and it won't happen on its own.
We need to accelerate gender equality and economic transformation. Over 70% of the people across Africa, the majority of them women, continue to earn their livelihoods in the informal economy, which is an afterthought in economic strategies and metrics today. Robust and decent job creation must be matched by achievement of universal social protection. The Global Accelerator for Jobs and Social Protection, launched last September, is central to these efforts. It aims to create 400 million decent new jobs in the care, green, and digital sectors and expand social protection to half of the global population by 2030. Achieving gender equality and SDG 5 requires ambitious action from all of us. Together, I hope we can implement the 5 transformative recommendations of the Secretary General, namely, repealing all gender discriminatory laws, promoting gender parity in all spheres and at levels of decision-making, facilitating women's economic inclusion, and ensuring greater inclusion of the voices of younger women, and following through on an emergency response plan to prevent and end violence against all women and girls.
Now, the next positive, which again has Rwanda written on it, but Africa and partnerships written on it, is the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. When we talk about the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, everybody wonders, why are we doing it, and how do we get out of the morass that we are in today? And why are we talking about this when we are all suffering, as they say, from a debt burden, and we are not able to finance our economies? It is 2022 and Africa is still standing. We have not yet had one African economy go into a full-blown debt crisis. That has not happened. One of the reasons that has not happened is Africa came together. And in the 2 years of COVID-19, Africa has traded more with itself than it has in the 5 years before COVID-19. Essentially because Africa had to rely on itself to begin to trade PPEs. Everybody became an SME PPE producer. The Nigerians were trading across West Africa, the Kenyans were trading across East Africa, the South Africans were taking care of the Southern African market, and the Moroccans and the Egyptians were taking over the North African market. That was Africa at its best. That is the Africa of the CFTA. That is the dream that we all, again, in Kigali, Mr. President, saw come alive as we signed the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement.
It is essential to have strong mechanisms to monitor progress and quickly adjust implementation. I commend this forum for showcasing the benefits of voluntary national and subnational reviews. Building the Africa we want is up to us. We have to own and lead the process and support one another. That's why these 2 development agendas are so important. It's about ensuring the stability and prosperity of our continent so that our young people can have the future they deserve. I hope that your deliberations in the coming days will set the tone for Africa's position ahead of the high-level political forum on sustainable development.